Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Tonight, we'll be looking at a topic. It will be shown on the screen anytime from now. Our facilitator for tonight is Wale Maikaya, and is a first-timer in terms of facilitating for us on this prestigious program. And the topic is safe recruitment practices, mitigating cyber risk in job posting and social media. Wale Maikaya is a seasoned cybersecurity and risk management expert with almost 2 decades of experience in leading organizations to mitigate risk and capitalize on opportunities in the ever-evolving tech landscape. He holds a master's in information technology from the University of Lagos and a master's in business administration from the University of Ibadan. He possesses a deep understanding of technology-driven business operations and the inherent cyber threats and risk. He has a strong background in telecoms, banking, fintech. In addition to this, Wale has developed expertise in cybersecurity governance compliance, risk management and mitigation, data protection and privacy, business continuity, and disaster recovery. He has over 20 certifications demonstrating his commitment to cybersecurity, risk management, and data protection, always exploring continuous learning. As a seasoned enterprise risk manager and data protection officer with InterSwitch Nigeria, Wale has a proven track record of ensuring regulatory compliance, managing risk, and providing assurance to stakeholders. Currently, he's practicing in the United Kingdom. Wale continues to leverage his expertise to drive business growth and resilience in the face of emerging cybersecurity. Again, let's welcome Wale Maikaya as he facilitates safe recruitment practices, mitigating cybersecurity risk in job posting and social media. You have the floor, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you for welcoming me, and I'm happy to be here. Our topic today is mitigating cyber risk in job postings and social media. So this is a landscape that everyone is probably familiar with. And I'm hoping that I can share some thoughts today that you can go to work tomorrow and start that process to making your organization safe. I don't know if we are aware of last week or 2 weeks ago where there was a cyber incident where it was regarded as an IT failure, where it led to the what they call blue screen of death across different organizations globally and in different sectors. Now, cybersecurity is not new, but there are new realities that we need to contend with. And today we want to discuss the human element of cybersecurity, and particularly because HR is the golden baby of the organization. In my view, HR is a source, and they can also be the one to help us manage people risk. And we want to look at it from even before you bring people into your organization. What are those risks that you need to be aware of, so that as you bring people into your organization, you don't also increase your risk and attack surfaces. The information we make available is what we want to evaluate today, and how we can maybe modify some of the approaches that we have adopted to recruit people into the organization. So I'll proceed, and I hope that I can get in your engagement in the chats as we proceed. Now, people are the weakest link. And because people are the weakest link, organizations spend a lot in buying technology, some in billions, just to keep themselves safe. But it is people that will operate that technology. So if the people are not aware, there is really nothing much you can do. It's just like you buying a very beautiful gadget in your house, and the people in your house do not know how to use them, or they misuse them. In that sense, you will evidently you will lose that the use of that gadget, and it could also be injurious to the people that are at home, for instance, children. So what we want to look at today is how HR can help us strengthen that people weakness that we have identified across organizations. So no matter the technology in place, people are the weakest link, and cyber criminals will target people, and they will target also HR that is in control of people. Now, I thought it's important to also share that information security, or cyber security as we may call it, is very important to the organization, and also HR is a critical element of that cyber security. Now, some of you may already be certified. Your organization may already be certified to what we call ISO 27001. And if you're already certified to it, it means you are probably familiar with some of the requirements of that standard. Now, this is not a technical training, so I will not bore you with the technical side. I will go to the side where I want to, but I just want to lay this foundation. The information security standards, which is global, is ISO 27001. It is that standards that is used to implement how information security is managed in the organization. And one of the controls there is people controls. And what are they looking at in that people's control? They are looking at screening. They are looking at terms and conditions of employment. They are looking at information security awareness, education and training. They are looking at disciplinary process. Now, if you look at all of these four things, they are things that are in the area and expertise of HR. But information security consider it very important, and have now dedicated a domain to HR. Then you will find responsibility and termination or change of employment, confidentiality or non-disclosure agreements, remote working, and information security event reporting. Now, the human element is so critical that the body that designed this framework decide that we can't take on this role of securing organization without considering human resources. As you know, human resources is the most important asset of the organization. Therefore, any security that does not consider human resources, it is not a security. So if your organization already have ISO 27001 and you have not played any role, you can go to work tomorrow and ask them, what is our role in these standards? Very, very important. If you go get a copy of the standards from the information security team, you will see exactly what they outlined here that you must do during screening, terms and conditions of employment, disciplinary process, responsibility and termination. All of those things are detailed there to help you secure people that are working when they leave, before they come in, when they are with you, and when they leave. So that process manages the entire life cycle of the employee when they join your organization. But speaking generally, what is exactly cybersecurity? The definition is as many as the people you will ask, but there are some foundational elements of cybersecurity. It talks about systems, talks about processes, talks about people. And in a simple way, it involves the protection of systems, of networks, and data from digital attacks, unauthorized access, and damage. It encompasses the practices, technologies, and processes designed to safeguard information integrity, confidentiality, and availability. I want you to focus on the last part, which is integrity, confidentiality, and availability of information. Now, the entire body of knowledge of information security is about confidentiality, is about integrity, and is about availability. So anything that can happen to information security or your data, they are either about integrity, they are either about confidentiality or availability. So when you hear the organization has been attacked, there are three things that people will eventually look at and consider. Are the resources available? Are they stealing our data in the sense of confidentiality? Confidentiality is that people who should not know or see should not see the data. Then about integrity, have they changed anything? Integrity is so important such that someone who is in level 1 is now not modified to become in level 3. What is confidentiality? You remember your shared drive in the office where you have HR folder and you have finance folder. And the people in HR or the people in IT or the people in risk or any department cannot see what is inside HR folder. Now imagine that confidentiality is not implemented. It means the person in supply chain or the person in sales or marketing can go into the folder of HR and see whatever information that is there. So confidentiality is important. Integrity is that the information you have kept there can be trusted to be what it is. If your account balance is 2,000 naira, sorry, 2,000 naira is too small. If your account balance is 2 million naira, if someone goes there and change a figure there, zero, and remove a zero, it becomes 200,000 naira. Now you can see how important that is. Imagine someone can add zero and add another zero and add another. So if integrity is very important. The last one, which ties to the incident that happened globally last week, was availability. And what happened? So there's a term that is called blue screen of death. You must have noticed it in your system when you are, maybe your system is booting and eventually you just see a blue screen. That is what they call blue screen of death. Now, it happens such that there's an organization called CrowdStrike that helps to protect computers. Now, they made an update because of cyber attack. And by the time they've completed that update, they pushed it to all of their customers. According to information, there are more than 20,000. So maybe a bank that has about 10,000 systems, a telecoms that has about 5,000 systems. So they pushed it to all of them. And by the time the update got to that system, the system rebooted and showed blue screen. If you have not read about it or heard about it, I encourage you to go look for it. Now, every system in the organization, at airport, in hospitals, train stations, and everywhere, they got shut down. And all you just have to, if you are catching a flight from Nigeria to Kenya, for instance, you will only see blue screen. And you can imagine that disruption. Now, that is an availability problem. So if your HR system suddenly cannot boot, that is an availability problem. If you want to apply for leave and you can't apply for leave, or you want to go to your bank and you can't access your bank account, that is an availability issue. Integrity is okay. Confidentiality is okay, but availability. But how are you sure that something that is not available has not been tampered with or has not been exposed? But availability is as important as integrity and confidentiality. That's all about information security. And because HR handles a lot of confidentiality materials, confidential information, information security should be your concern and your baby. The confidentiality and integrity of data, of HR data, of recruitment data, and everything that has to do with your employee must be very, very important to you. Now, in this session, I want to talk really about processes. I'm not talking about systems, maybe people and processes. And the particular one I'm looking at is talent sourcing and recruitment. That is a process that HR goes through. Again, I'm not trying to tell because you are expert in that domain, but from my layman understanding, that is a process through which HR uses to attract talent and bring people that can help achieve the organization's objective to the organization. Now, talent sourcing has been found to be one major area where risks are introduced into the organization. And the question is how? How does looking for talent contribute to risk in the organization? Very simple. This is a typical recruitment process. Typical. I say typical because I am not the HR expert, but from my understanding, having recruited before, this is what I'm aware of. That there will be a JD. Now, that JD, which is job description, will be a contribution. So the JD could have gone through, the development of the JD could have gone through some strategic alignment between the business and where the organization is going, the skills that is required to push the organization to the next level has now contributed to developing a JD. Or the activities that is being carried out, let's put it in a standard format and we call it a job description. In that job description, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm saying this because there was a time in 2012 that I worked on a project called Job Function, and it was basically to gather as much as JD as possible, such that an HR professional can go onto the platform and just extract a JD and then go align it to the organization. Now, I know there will be a brief about the organization, there will be educational requirements, there will be experience, there will be skills, there will be qualification, and all of those things that will be in the JD. To the best of my understanding, the JD usually developed between the HR and the hiring manager. So a typical way that I understand is that the HR guy, the hiring manager says, I need someone in a team, and this is what they need to do. And they document that requirement into a JD, and HR format it into a standard template. And you either, so depending on your policy, you publish it internally for people inside to apply, or you publish it outside. And outside will mean you go to either LinkedIn, you go to your website, or you give it to a job site to publish the JD. And immediately it is published, it is live. Now, in those days, you would go to the street and ask someone and say, how many children do you have? It is unlikely that you will get a good answer to say, I have 5 children. In fact, in my own side of town, the response is that we do not count children, right? Maybe I'm not interpreting correctly, but can come or follow more. That's interpretation. That's we don't count children for the owner of the child also. But today in the world of information, you basically don't have to ask people how many children they have. They by themselves will publish their family photo. They by themselves will publish their house address, publish their everything about them. You can basically build a profile of human being. In fact, we do not know already the information that is out there about individuals, but they are massive. Now, in that process of you developing a JD, there's some information you must communicate that would help people who want to apply for that job to know whether they are fit for the job or not. And that's what becomes your JD, and you put it on the web for everybody to see on LinkedIn. And I've just extracted a typical example of a JD that I came across online. So on this JD, which is that the organization is looking for someone with good problem solving skills, and they are looking for strong communication, IT operating systems, particularly Windows, Exchange, and Citrix. And they are looking for someone that can handle installation of software and hardware. And the rest is organizational skills and time management. Then you can read also on the right hand side, entry requirements, an IT administrator with many, you might enter after completing the degree, blah, blah, blah. And you go down and say it's important that you also have qualification in the particular systems and platforms the company operates. For example, Microsoft, Cisco, Oracle. Now, imagine that you want to bring in a house help, and you take your house and take the inventory of all the electronics in your house, would you go and document that I have 14-inch screen, a smart TV, a touch screen, I have laptops, I have in my kitchen, I have oven, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this. And you gather all of them together and you say you are looking for a helper that can operate those things. That's exactly what this job has done. The job has documented what exists in the organization for anybody to come and apply. And this is actually a standard practice in terms of looking for the right candidate. When HR, you know that when you put up a job, there's 1,001 people that will apply. And you then have to go through piles of CVs. And if you are lucky to have outsourced the job, they will get all the CVs, pick maybe the top 10 and just send it to you and discard the rest. But in order to be able to provide adequate information, then it is better you provide a lot of the requirements so that people understand and they don't apply. But you already know that even if they don't understand it, they will still apply. Now, going to the second job, this is a database administrator that is, so it's in London based, currently supporting a leading law practice who are in need of interest or in need of interest for you. Ideally, my clients are looking for candidates with the following experience: SQL experience with no SQL databases, that's MongoDB and Cosmos. And the last one is another job description. Now, this may actually be more related to people in the technical area, and again, people that manage system, because that is where attackers usually focus on. Now, if you look at the requirements, it's talking about SQL calls, HA proxy, proxy SQL, mask scale, Amazon database, AWS database, Aurora RDS, and what do they want? ATS SQL management, large scale my SQL deployment, the operating system, the Linux, Unix, and all of those things. This is usual practice. Let the candidate know as much information as possible so that they know that they are suitable for the job and they can apply. However, this is actually an unintentional disclosure of information. Unintentional. So there is intentional disclosure, but there is unintentional disclosure. The bad guys are waiting and listening for unintentional disclosure. The bad guys read between the lines to know exactly what you are saying, but you have not said, just saying it as you should have said it. They read in between the line and then pick the information they want. And I just want to show you a typical example of how these bad guys will think about your organization. If your organization is of interest, trust me, every information you put out there is important to them. And let's go through the job description that I shared earlier and then see the implication on your organization. So we have organizations that develop technologies, the likes of Microsoft, Cisco, Google, and all sorts, even your Samsung and your Apple, your Android phone and the rest. They are organizations that develop them. But because these things are made by humans, there are vulnerability. Vulnerability is basically weakness. There are weaknesses in design. There are weaknesses in development. Usually, the more secure a gadget is, the more difficult it is for people to use them. So organizations will decide to reduce the difficulty or the technicality or how secure that device is so that it can be easily used. Again, if you are building for, it depends on the industry that you are building for. If you are building for a market like a Nigerian market with very low or with not too high literacy rates, you can understand what I'm saying, that you have to go and design things that will easily be understood by people on the street. Now, this organization has published a job and they say they require skills are, so the first thing is they're looking for someone who understands Windows, Exchange, and Citrix. And then lower, they're looking for someone with Cisco experience and Oracle experience. What I have just done is I've gone to look for what are the vulnerabilities that exist on Cisco. Now, this is what most people who are looking for how they can get into your organization, this is what they do. They look at the database and say which of these vulnerability affects the most devices that people are using. Now, if you did not put up a job advert, they are unlikely to know. Of course, Windows is everywhere. So I must acknowledge that Windows is everywhere. But when someone knows that you have something in your house, then they know they have passed the first stage. The first stage is, what do they have in their house? If they don't know that you have a smart screen that is made by Samsung, then they will need to factor that out. But due to job description publication, you have already told the world that I have Windows. Some people will actually let you know that they have Windows version this. They will tell you they have this is particular version you must understand, you must be able to do. So this is showing us that there are 6,396 records of vulnerabilities that have been found on Cisco devices. Cisco devices are those flat machines that they use to connect one office to the other. So you would likely have one in your office, in your server room. So imagine that one device could be exposed to over 6,000 vulnerabilities. Let's move on to the next one, which is, again, database, SQL, HA proxy, proxy SQL, AWS database, MySQL, Linux, MS SQL. Again, I searched. Proxy SQL has 14 records. And okay, so process. So you can see that while publishing a vacancy, you have already announced to the world the software that is in place in your organization. Now, trust me that what happened 2 weeks ago, I think, about the blue screen of death that I mentioned, people who know now that a lot of organizations are using that software, they have crossed a level in their scanning and information gathering. So everybody that has published that we were affected has shared the news that they were affected, but they have also told the world that we use these products. Did you get what I hope you understand what I'm trying to say? They have told the world that, oh, there's blue screen of death in our office. It means that we use that organization. That is the unintentional disclosure of information that, you release a press release, you publish a press release, and you say some things. And from what you have said, you've already said a lot of things that people can pick out of. And that's what has happened. Everyone that has gone online to say, oh, my organization has blue screen of death, our airport had blue screen of death, our hospital has blue screen of death, automatically, if they are a subject of interest to any hacker or any attacker, they now know that this is what exists in this organization. One rule of defense is don't let your enemy know you front and back. Don't let them know your secrets. Don't let them know what should be secret and silent to you or your family. Now, let's so there was a cybersecurity threat report for 2030, and they try to identify the top 10 risk or threat that most organizations would face. And number 2 on that list is skill shortage. Skill shortage leads to an increase of online job advertisements that tell attackers the technologies that each organization is using and the approximate number of empty positions. So when you go and publish and say, I'm looking for a security specialist, or I'm looking for a database administrator, attackers already know that, okay, you don't have this person already, or you don't have this skill in-house already. And if your organization is the kind of organization that it takes a long time to fill a role, they know that, okay, maybe this role that is not occupied currently may be exposed. So it is something for you to understand that as you publish job vacancies, you are unintentionally letting people know about the weaknesses that you may be exposed to unintentionally. So a state-sponsored actor may use this to their advantage as a part of a large campaign to tamper with critical infrastructure in another country. Imagine that Germany airport was affected by this blue screen of death. That is potentially an opportunity for several organizations, for several attackers to focus on them if they have any subject of interest. Again, I don't know why a lot of people took to social media to announce that they were affected with that blue screen of death. Again, it's the joy or the spur of the moment that actually led people to sharing those kind of information. But we do not know how much danger lies ahead because of that singular sharing of information that, oh, my organization was affected by the blue screen of death. Now, going forward, the other thing I also have noticed is about ghost job postings. So a job was posted on the 1st of February 2023. We're hiring. And then people apply. And by the 25th of March, there's a congratulations to the person that has been hired. So what do you then see after 25th of March? You still find that job online. Then you come again in 2024, that job is still online. Meanwhile, that job has been occupied. Now, if at all you actually expose those information that I have on the JD, and you expose it for a short time, it is off. In fact, maybe attackers did not even know that you exposed it. But the more you keep this information online, the more then they know that these are the things that are in your organization. Or they are even thinking you have not even filled the role. So ghost job postings, you can't just leave adverts in perpetuity. Again, some of these things are difficult to curtail because some people pick your job and just go and post it on their websites. You probably have to contact them to take it down if you want to go the length. Now, what are the things you must be conscious of? Now, I have a recommendation, and it is that we need to adopt a different approach in hiring and developing JD. The hiring manager is important because they understand what is to be done. The technical element of the job, they understand it. The HR business partner is important because they will need to structure the JD to standard. I'm asking you to involve risk managers, and risk managers could be diverse. It could be people who are in information security or people who have the title risk manager. And the simple question you want to ask them is this: can you help me identify the risk in this JD? Just simple question. Identify the risk in this JD and let them tell you what risk they have seen in you putting up this JD. They will be able to advise you on the information you should be able to filter. In fact, one of the information security standards have some information security requirement for some jobs because of how important the jobs are. HR manager should not just take a JD from hiring manager and hit the road and then go publish it. Try to get the thought of a risk manager. Risk managers are those guys that you may not like them. And I must say that you may not like them. And they are not they are not your auditor. In the way the organization governance is designed, risk managers are what we call the second line of defense. They are like HR. And what they do is that they are your second eye to the things that you have done. So the person that is going to the market to bring a customer in, his primary objective is to bring in a customer. But the risk manager does not have that as a primary objective. It's an objective eye that is looking at what you have done. And his mindset is built towards what are the risks in this activity. You probably have one of those friends that you call them pessimists, or they always look for the wrong thing. Again, it is not entirely a bad idea to have those kind of eye. I have that one friend like that, and very critical. So what I do is when I write email and I need a thought on, I invite her to come and help me read the email, and she fulfills her job for me. Criticize this email or critique this email so that I can do it better. So those guys, the risk managers, they may serve or they may look like a pain in the neck, but they are best used when you have not caused problems. So they can look at a JD and tell you that this is a risk we have found in this JD, and this is how we should mitigate them. So I encourage you, build them into your process. If at all you don't want to build them in all of your processes, let them be part of your technology recruitment process, or let them be part of your key positions, so that they can dimension any risk that the JD are putting out, the unintended disclosure of information. The second thing is clean up your job postings. Put the information out there, clean it up, clean up the information you are putting out there. But again, we can only do our best in terms of, you don't know who is watching you, so you can only be careful. We don't know how much people can study the job. With the age of ChatGPT, you can pick a JD and put it in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will tell you the strength and the weaknesses of that JD. And ChatGPT can tell a hacker and say, this is how you can attack this organization based on this JD. So, like I said, you don't know who is watching you, and we don't know the information that is out there. But if at all it is out there, but is not out there for a long time, you are better. So you once you fill a role, just take it off your website. Again, I do not know whether there's a regulatory requirement for you to keep jobs online. So you evaluate the risk, right? Again, I'm speaking from a risk manager's perspective. You evaluate the risk and determine whether this job needs to stay online for regulatory confirmation, or you need to take a screenshot to show that you actually publish your job and all of that. Now, the second thing I want to discuss is social media profiles. So one day I was in the office and I got an email. That email looks strange. And my first question is, why is this person sending me an email? And I decided to look at it again. I looked at it. It wasn't looking like something I am familiar with. So I looked at the organization it came from. It didn't come from inside. It came from outside. When I saw it, I said, okay, so I read the email and I took some keywords in that email. Apparently there was a project ongoing, and that project, they're maybe trying to implement something. And they mentioned some key things that they're working on that email. So I took those keywords, maybe for instance, the job I posted earlier, maybe MySQL or proxy SQL or HA proxy. and I took it to LinkedIn, and I searched for that word, and lo and behold, it brought out the profile of the person that sent me that email. How? The person had that technology on his own profile. Now, that is unintended disclosure of information. Now, what is on your profile? What is on your profile? That's a question that I want to now. There's a book by Malcolm Harkins, and he published 9 irrefutable laws of information risk. And he said, number 1 is that information wants to be free, especially the good one, especially the bad ones. People want to talk, they want to post, and they want to share information, and they increase risk by doing so. How do you tell someone that has just gotten a job in an oil company not to say that he has gotten a job? Are you not an enemy of progress? How can you tell me that I just have a baby and I cannot share that I just have a baby? How can you tell me that I just bought a car and I cannot give testimony on LinkedIn that I just bought a car, or I just bought the most expensive TV in my neighborhood and I cannot tell people that I bought? So information wants to be free. Very good news, especially when you have someone you want to pepper. Very good news likes to be free. But at what expense is the question? What risk are you exposing yourself to by sharing some type of information? There's a lot of data out there. So I was watching a documentary, and it was an organization that collects pictures, and they collect that picture to use it to build a recognition system. So if, for instance, they need to know whether you are a black person or you're a white person or you're from a part of the country, they have enough data of people from your area that they can then say, if the person is walking like this and is twisting his head like this, from the data that we have seen, the person is likely from this part of the area. And there are ethical challenges around artificial intelligence. One example was someone went to the joint with his friends, with one of his friends, and a white and a black guy. And the white guy was able to wash his hands, but the black guy could not. And the white guy went there and put his hand, and the tap responded, but the sensor responded to his hand. But the black guy put it there, didn't respond. These are data that they have collected online. Of course, because of some ethics around building products, inclusive product, that you do not segregate and remove people because of where they are from and the rest. But the bottom line here is that information wants to be free, but you have to apply filter. This information I want to share, it is good news for me, but is it good news to other people? I'll go back to also my one adage. I don't know the interpretation, but I will just say it in case you can understand. It's about yam. He said, if your yam is there are some yam that is very good. If your yam is very good, but that's just my own interpretation. If your yam is very good, you have to cover it and eat it secretly, because you actually don't know who is happy with the information you share. Again, I'm talking from a risk manager perspective. People may not agree with what I'm saying, but I'm talking from a risk perspective about the information that we share. Now, so I'll just read that. So a senior executive at a major company, technology company, updated his profile on a business social networking site, maybe LinkedIn. In doing so, he inadvertently pre-announced a shift in his employer's strategy, a mistake that was promptly and gleefully picked up by the press. That's one. An employee found a novel way to fix a piece of equipment more quickly and to help other companies, to help others across the company, decided to videotape and the procedure. Because videos files are so large, it didn't make sense to email the video, so the employee posted it online. It is worth noting that this rule is not new. Information has always wanted to be free. Think of World War II slogan, loose lips sink ships. People communicate, and sometimes they share more information than they should. It's just the methods that have changed. And the fact that with the internet, a carelessly mentioned detail is instantly available to anyone across the globe. So before you press send, think about it. What exactly am I trying to communicate? And what is the purpose of this sharing? There are a lot of times I want to send some things, I put it in my draft and I delete it because I'm thinking in tomorrow or next week, what is this data going to say? Some data that we have shared today, they don't make sense today, but they will make sense tomorrow. All right. Now, selfies. Now, I try to blow out this picture because I don't want to get into trouble for using a picture, but I try to just mystify it. Now, this is a picture of some IT guys in their IT room, and they have just published their IT room. And two things, apart from the security risks, the IT room is looking very unkept. And imagine they have customers who have given them businesses and seeing that this is the type of room that you are. So when you take that's why when I was in a bank, it was said that there are phones that you can't take some phones into some areas. You can't take phones into some areas. They are highly restricted area. And there's a reason for that. People take pictures. You can be in your server room and you are excited. The IT guy is excited and you just want to take pictures to show his friends that these are the kind of gadgets that we use in our organization. What is that? Shares it on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, and that is unintended disclosure of information. So happy mood, causing trouble, and you will not know where that exposure is coming from. Now, this is something I picked up online and I thought it will be good to share. So this is congratulations, Tony, on the great work that you have been doing with mind capture. So I stopped there. Congratulations, Tony, on the great job you have been doing with mind capture. Now, the next thing, the people that you don't think that they will use the information is that they can pick mind capture and take mind capture to Google or put it on LinkedIn and say, what is mind capture? And maybe, God forbid, mind capture is a technology. So they know, okay, this guy is either working on mind capture in organization or helping people to solve mind capture problem. Unintended disclosure. So it was a happy moment, but that happy moment is how hackers get information. This is another one. Staff accountant 2. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations for promotion. Now, this is an organization that is trying to recognize their employees, right? And it's a good thing that you promote your staff, you share online that you have promoted your staff. But do you know that phishing is the #1 risk? In fact, out of 100 cyber breaches, about 80% of them, more than 80% of them, is as a result of phishing. Now, what is phishing? Someone send an email to you, and that email contains either malware or they direct you to a page where you go and put information. That's phishing. So they have unintentionally exposed their accountant. And who is an accountant? Someone that deals with money. So what does it take me today? I know Madeline is a senior accountant. I know that Connor is a senior accountant. Maybe Connor is reporting to its CFO. So I go to LinkedIn, I get the CFO, and I know that if I can get Connor to send email to the CFO, maybe the CFO will approve. So they can, target the CFO and Connor. Somebody can be the CFO outside and somebody is Connor, and the CFO is approving, or the CFO outside is instructing Connor to pay money. This is unintentional. It wasn't, they didn't decide that they want to show that. They're just sharing information. It's good news for the organization. It's even employee morale that my organization can share information about me, but at what expense? So evaluating the information is very important. Now, what can HR do? One thing I know that HR, apart from the fear that people have of HR, is that HR is the creator of order. HR is that institution that understand the importance of people and how people help the organization to achieve their objective. So I believe strongly that HR can create order. HR is not involved in the day-to-day activity of everybody. And when you are not involved in the day-to-day of people's business, you are not bottled down with their complexity. So you come with a fresh eye. And therefore, you can help sanitize that environment. Your best ally is your cybersecurity or information security guy. And if you don't have them in the organization, well, it is important, I must confess. But if you don't have a cybersecurity or information security person in your organization, you can, it could be your IT person may know about it, and you can join them to create that order. And what can you do? You can create a social media policy. Now, I have to also be careful in this area. People don't like the idea that they are being monitored, right? And that's why if you look at the point I have listed, consequence is graded because it's grade because the idea that people can be checking your profile to know what you're doing is not ideal. So the part I am more for, I'll get to it, but can you think about a social media policy? When in my organization, then it was clearly written, you cannot share things about the organization, maybe a breaking news about the organization, you cannot share it. If anybody reach out to you and say, what about this in the organization? Just direct them to the communication team. Again, if you don't have a communication team, you can direct them to HR. There are people that have been trained to answer questions. Let them handle that. Don't be someone that confirms a rumor on behalf of your organization. So HR can create that order. This policy can be with marketing, it can be even with HR. But the bottom line is that you have a policy that helps people to understand what is acceptable. It could be social media acceptable policy or acceptable use of social media, whatever it is. You develop a comprehensive social media policy that outlines acceptable use and provides clear guidelines on what information should not be shared. Again, I mentioned confidentiality. I know that when people join you, you have this NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Can you also expand it to social media? Not only word of mouth with people, but social media. So clearly define what constitutes confidential and proprietary information for the organization. So for some organization, you can't talk about our finances. You can't talk about our customers. You can't talk about our shareholders. You can't talk about our board. You can't talk about some things. Our product, how we develop our product, you can't talk about if you are not in that field and if you are not authorized to do that. Create an approval process that require pre-approval from designated departments for posts related to company projects, partnerships, or new customers. And the last one here that I grayed out is outline the consequences for violating the policies. Again, this is the last resort, because you are dealing with human being here and things can be twisted. Now, employee training and awareness. This is where I actually think that you should focus your effort in. Some organization, in my experience in InterSwitch, it was a monthly exercise. Monthly, as a staff, you must take an information security training every month. Now, it doesn't mean that even if everybody takes that training, that somebody cannot fall, but you reduce that likelihood that somebody will do something wrong. And training is the best way. Train and retrain. One way we did it then also is that it was a line item in the appraiser. So we have in 12 months, you need to show evidence that you have taken, and it's 5 minutes, 5 minutes awareness. You need to show evidence that you have done the training for 12 times. Again, you don't have to create a special training. Organizations should have mandatory training for the year. So part of that mandatory training should be information security, so that people are aware and they know that they will be measured on it. Again, you can have a carrot and stick approach. Depending also your industry, if you work in a regulated industry, they will demand it. In fact, one time, the auditor came from our chief regulator then, Central Bank, and they said they want to see the attendance of people who attended the training, particularly people who did not attend, and what we did. That was how detailed they were. They want to understand, what did we do to people who did not take the training? So you need to be able to manage it. If someone does not take the training, you need to address it. Is it that the person is on leave? So that you are not just, conducting training, and once it is not enforced, people just take it as business as usual. Internal communication channels. Encourage the use of internal communication platforms for sharing company achievements and updates instead of public social media. Let there be approval process, and also let there be incident monitoring. What I encourage you to also do, create a Google alert about your organization. Have a Google alert. It's free. So you can go to Google and create an alert where your organization is mentioned. Even HR is mentioned, HR of this organization, once they are mentioned, or if your organization and HR is mentioned in the same sentence, try and capture it so that you can get notification. In my field as a cybersecurity professional, I get notified every day about cyber issues, and you need to do that for your organization so that you can easily track some of these things before they escalate and become trouble. I think this should be my last slide, and I want to thank you for the opportunity. I will be here, Dr. Odiemi, I'll be here to take any questions that you may have. I hope that we've spent a good time together. Thank you. Hello, Dr. Odiemi. Right, we'll wait for you, Dr. Odiemi.
Hello, sir.
I'm with you.
Please, you can take questions and answer. My network is bad.
All right. Okay, I have not seen any question. I have just been seeing thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, I've just been seeing thank you. I've not seen any question. All right, thank you. Thank you for thanking me, and thank you for inviting me here. So I guess my explanation was detailed. That's why there's no question. And Dr. Liam, if you can hear me, I think I can't see any question in the chat room. And yeah, I can't see any question in the chat room. But thanks everyone for listening. If you reach out to Dr. Liam, if any question, please go ahead. Adeni, if any question pops up after the session, you can raise it through Dr. Liam. So Beth has raised his hand, and I guess you can unmute and speak. Beth, I guess you can unmute and speak. All right. Niyi, you say you have a question. If you can chat your question.
I sent it that chat, but anyway, the question was for those of us that have put out our information out there.
Excellent.
We are younger and in our days of not understanding the risk and implication of that kind of compromise.
All right.
What are ways of deleting our data from
Thank
the internet?
you. So so this is also now going into the area of data protection. So in data protection, you have the right to ask for your data to be deleted. So for instance, if you don't want to bank with X bank, you can write to them and tell them to delete your data. Of course, there are regulatory requirements for data to be kept for 7 years. I know for banks, I know for fintechs, but there could be someday, I know for your organization, for instance, if your staff writes you and say, HR, delete my data, you are obliged to do that according to regulation, right? But you may now have another regulation that says keep employees' record for life. So you can then reply to that staff and say, we can't delete it. But I know for social media, in fact, one of the documentary I watched was about one of these social media dating sites where someone requested the organization to delete all her profile on in fact, she said, I want my data from you. And the the platform must give you your data if you want it. Of course, they can then say it is too much. We have to charge for it. So some of them may charge to discourage you, but you can say you want it in soft copy. But you can write them to delete your data. You can do that yourself. You can do what you call your digital footprint. You can go online and start deleting those information, especially information that you shared in the days of unknown, in the days where you thought you were wise and you are now wiser. So you can do that cleanup. You can write to those organizations, and if you want to enforce it, you can copy the regulatory authority. So for Nigeria, it is the Nigeria Data Protection Agency. You can write the organization and say, don't process my data. So I can tell Google, for instance, don't send me email. That's why you have unsubscribe. I can tell my bank, my telco, delete my message. Don't send me any message again. It's something you can do. The other question I have here, sir, what about salary disclosure in JD? Could or should it be classed as privacy to E? So it depends on the country, right? Some countries, like I know for the UK, they state the amounts. That's is not something hidden. But some organization, again, still in the UK, some organizations don't state the amount. So there's no hard and fast rule to it. So there are practices around you asking for someone's salary so that you know how much you pay them, right? So there are those conversations that are ongoing. That's why do you want to know how much I'm earning? That's privacy issue, right? Or I want to know how much you're earning so that I know how to match your salary, how to increase your salary. But it is, yeah, I don't think disclosing it in the JD is a problem. It's just that as HR professional, I also heard that it helps you avoid people that should not apply that will apply. But in some countries, they are very transparent about that. Is there any negative effect of sending CV to employers when hunting for job? There's none. There's none, but in the age of data privacy, you cannot keep somebody's CV for life. In fact, as HR professional, maybe that's another course I need to come and facilitate if there's time, is that you cannot keep my JD for life. In some places, it is you have. So when I was in InterSwitch as data protection officer, we defined a data protection clause for our HR. Excuse me. Excuse me. So we defined a data clause, a data protection clause, because when you collect people's information, like their JD, you also have the responsibility to make sure that that JD, or sorry, that CV is secure. So if there's a breach of your organization, you are mandated to inform them that you have been breached. So how many people can you remember? So what is advisable is that when they send you their CV, let it be for 6 months. After 6 months, delete every CV. You don't need it. That's the standard practice. You can't keep somebody's CV for life, but you can send CV to people. But you can't keep CV for life because it contains personal information. And some people are not, Nigeria, people will put their house address on the CV. They will put their local government, put their age, all of those information. So those are personal information. Put their religion also. I don't know whether they put political party now, but they put their religion on the CV. How can one manage information in a medical organization, e.g. hospital? All right, managing information. So this question is quite broad, but I think your question deals more with privacy. But the question is not very specific for me to answer. But most hospital data, they are confidential. They are what we call sensitive data. And again, that's another topic on data privacy that we won't need to discuss. Then there's usually a non-disclosure agreement regarding salary exposure, but different organizations still ask to get that data or information from candidates or applicants. How do you class this in terms of privacy? In my view, every information, so you can ask, but the staff is obliged, not to disclose if they don't want to. It's personal information. You can ask, but because again, once you ask for this information, you have responsibility of confidentiality. If the information gets exposed, you can be sued. And if you get breached, you are supposed to inform the staff or the person, even person you did not recruit. You have gotten their CV, you are going through a recruitment process and requested for NYC certificate, CV, other certificates, qualification, all of those things. If you get breached, you are supposed to communicate with the person. And data, to keep data today is not cheap. So you have that, you are spending money and you also have responsibility to keep. Don't you think an association-wide policy should be in place to curb it? Anyway, this salary issue is actually so again, it's that if I tell you how much I'm earning and I'm earning 5,000 and you decide that the 7,000 you will pay me and I get in and somebody that is doing the same job tells you you're sending 10,000 and you give him 12,000 and I see that I'm earning 7,000 and he's in 12,000. What does that create in your organization? So you need to look at it and pay people for, in my view, pay people for the job they are coming to do, irrespective of where they are coming from. So what if I delete my social media presence and my details? How do hiring people know me, especially on LinkedIn? So now people can check your profile. In fact, I have done it for someone that wanted to hire me, right? I had an interview some time ago, and I went to check the person's profile to know, and I know the person is supporting Arsenal. So I had to go and look for how to talk well about Arsenal, right, in doing my interview. So social media profiles are not supposed to judge people about their private life, but we are human. If you know someone who is a political warrior on the internet, that may affect your judgment in hiring that kind of a person. But LinkedIn is a professional platform that we believe that people should be professional in their conversation. So it's not that you delete your profile. It is that you delete information that you think might be injurious to your personality. Keep it clean and professional. If you have had altercations in the past with people that are not healthy for you and are not clean, based on what you now know, you can go back and go and clean up your profile. It's digital footprint that you want to keep clean. People do it all the time. You know, some of the things that they bring up about people today is things that they have said or done in their past. So if you know you have been unwise and you are now wiser, you can clean your digital footprint because these data are there for life. Trust me, they are there till the platform does not exist. And human being forgets. Technology remembers, especially at the time where you don't want them to remember. That's one thing you need to keep in mind. Human being will forget. To err is human. To remember is technology. I hope you have gotten something today, and I want to thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Obiemi, for inviting me. I look forward to another time of professional engagement. Thank you, and God bless you.